We don't tend to think of Denver, a growing cosmopolitan city with a diversified economy, as a cow town anymore. But cows, and let's call them livestock, were a big reason Denver and the region grew and prospered. Even before the Panic of 1883, which sent the mining industry into a tailspin, the livestock business showed promise. The Denver Union Stockyard Company formed in the 1880s as a union of several independent stockyards around the town. In 1886, it opened its stockyards on the site of today's National Western Complex to feed cattle and provide meat for Denver and the nearby mining camps. An early manager of the company described them this way: the facilities were of course primitive, consisting of only a few unpaved pens, a frame building for the transaction of what business there was, and a small slaughterhouse. Still, the stockyards boomed. They became a major trading point between breeders, feeders, and buyers for shipment to nationwide markets. By 1899, the yards had expanded to 105 acres, and more than 10,000 stock cars a year unloaded 280,000 cattle, 120,000 hogs, 220,000 sheep, and 10,000 horses and mules. When a group of prominent cattlemen and businessmen raised the notion of Denver hosting a stock show at the yards, the Denver Union Stockyard Company threw its entire support behind the idea. They chose a time in January so as not to conflict with the other stock shows. Plus, farmers and ranchers were less busy in the winter. In 1906, the National Western Stock Show launched under a borrowed circus tent. Denver Mayor Robert W. Spear declared it Denver Day and made it an official holiday. Admission was free, though the train from Union Station did cost a quarter. The Denver press called it the biggest and best stock show in the West, and soon it was. In 1909, the tent gave way to the stadium arena, and over the years, more buildings went up, and with time, often came back down. For decades on end, the stock show grew and prospered. Today, the stock show attracts more than 700,000 visitors to an extravaganza of 29 rodeos, 13 horse shows, and countless other attractions. Today, more than 15,000 head pass through the stock show, and some of them march right through downtown Denver. During those 16 days in January, this city of skyscrapers becomes a cow town again. Of course, that's only part of the story. For so many, the National Western Stock Show is a pilgrimage, a gathering of extended families that sustains and defines the West. It's a place where generations of farmers and ranchers have looked forward to spending time with old friends they reunite with year after year. It's also a place in need of renewal. Many of its buildings are more than half a century old, and by modern standards would be called primitive. In 2015, Denver voters agreed that the National Western deserved better. They passed a ballot initiative that would provide anchor funding for $1 billion urban renewal project that's one of the most ambitious in U.S. history. The National Western Complex is now transforming into the National Western Center. It's a wholesale reconstruction meant to provide a home commensurate with the National Western's greatness, and more broadly, to honor and preserve the legacy of the West for the next 100 years. And unlike the current complex, the flexibility that's been designed into the National Western Center means it's going to be an attractive venue for diverse shows, competitions, concerts, markets, and festivals, both indoors and out. We expect an additional 1 million visitors a year and starkly higher revenues. But first, we have to finish building it, and taxpayer dollars won't cover it all. The National Western is funding 4 major facilities that will serve as stock show mainstays in the decades to come. We created the Honoring the Legacy campaign as a way to raise the more than $100 million it will take to build for the future of the stock show and much more. Those facilities include the Legacy Building, the National Western's new world headquarters, the Seal and Ron Williams Yards, a re-envisioning of the stockyards that helped build this city, complete with removable pens and 2 arenas. The Sue Anschutz Rogers Livestock Center, a modern hub of all livestock activities, providing multi-use, flexible indoor facilities year-round. Suffice it to say, it's a whole lot more than a borrowed circus tent. And the Equestrian Center, one of the nation's premier centers for year-round horse shows and events. But this campaign is about much more than buildings, pens, and parking structures. It's about creating a world-class hub of agricultural innovation and a year-round economic engine for Denver and the region. It's about celebrating the farmers and ranchers that sustain us. It's about bringing rural America together with urban America to share ideas and learn where our food really comes from. And perhaps most importantly, it's about the future, the generations that come after us, so they have a place to learn, grow, and celebrate ag. It's about my grandchildren and yours, so they have a place to discover the West at its best, and maybe even see where milk really comes from. It's all about preserving the heritage, culture, work ethic, and values of the West for future generations. Please join us as we honor the legacy of the National Western and build for its future.